It is another Light News Radio. Self-empowerment for the whole human being.
Music
The
that
place where
Nesha, our
sick and
producer,
tired
has
is
created
no
for us.
longer
It's just
of
amazing.
oneself.
Welcome, my
Featuring your
friends, to
host,
Light News
Dr.
Radio,
Richard
Realms of
Joseph,
Self-Empowerment.
and co-host Deirdre Layton.
This begins our
Together,
third
they
year
finish
of
each
bringing
other's
Light News
sentences,
Radio to
laugh,
you,
and take you
and
from
we are
feeling
blessed to be
hopeless
living in an age where
overjoyed
so
to
much
rock
personal
your
spiritual
world.
empowerment
And
is
now,
readily
here are
available.
your hosts,
I am
Dr.
Richard
J
Jelicic, also
and
known as
Deirdre.
Dr. J, your host, and my angelic happy soul co-host is Deirdre Layton. Together, we bring you grounded spirituality, meaningful and pertinent news of people and events that help us understand our true spiritual nature, what I like to call the whole human being. Light News Radio features interviews with empowered men and women who are walking their spiritual talk and are making a difference in helping humanity awaken to its spiritual potential. We are your hosts, here to help you live a more self-aware, spiritually awakened life and to offer the tools and techniques to help you empower your journey. Come aboard our beam of light and travel the waves of knowledge and wisdom with us for the next hour. How you doing, Deirdre?
I'm doing fantastic. I really am. I'm home from a week's holiday, which was kind of
Much needed.
much needed, and it was a lot of fun because I still got work done, but I took the time to take my dog and my cat and our fifth wheel and off to the mountains and got to sit and listen to the river and sit and listen to the wind in the trees and the rocks falling on the side of the mountains, and it was
Were the
something
rocks
that
falling
was
from the sky, just out of the clouds, or
No,
were
from
they
the
falling
sides.
on top of each other randomly?
No, the side of the mountains. The rocks were falling from the side of the mountains. And they were rolling down the river with the water. So it was amazing.
There's a song there someplace, I think.
What's that?
There's a song there someplace, I think. But one of the things I notice about you, Deirdre, as our listeners may or may not know, Deirdre Layton lives in Calgary, Canada. And I live in San Diego. These are our hometowns. But, we, of course, work together. And our producer, Nesha, he is in Serbia. And so with the internet, of course, this is no big deal. You just ask a 12-year-old, and they go, well, of course, it's no big deal. But the one thing I notice about Deirdre is she really does what she says she's going to do. She goes out to the mountains because the Rocky Mountains are just west of Calgary, less than 50 miles. And you can go out there into the trees and recharge. And, Deirdre, that's the one thing I like about you is you do take the time off. You do make the effort to reassess and recharge yourself. And, I think that's something that our listeners sometimes have a great difficulty doing is scheduling in the time. And right there is a big problem, scheduling in the time for repose and relaxation.
Yeah, and it's not just scheduling in time for relaxation. I teach meditation classes, and it's interesting that people don't even schedule in 2 minutes in a day just to do a couple of breathing exercises, to try and get some meditation going. So I work very hard at, I work very hard at what I do because I believe in what I do. And
Right.
So I have found that in the last, 10 some odd years that I have been a spiritual advisor or counselor or energy facilitator, whatever you want to call me, that if I don't stop and take that 5 minutes to smell the roses, come on, that's for real. You've got to do it.
Yeah.
You get burnt out. And I see so many people doing that.
Yeah, we call it mindfulness, right? So I went to see my physician here about a month and a half ago, and I told him, he asked me what I did, and he says, well, yeah, he practices mindfulness now and then. And I think that's where it's at is our wonderful host, who we're going to bring on in a few minutes, was just talking about how sometimes the mind becomes consumed with busyness, which I inferred that also is what give rise to our infirmities, our illnesses of the mind, the psychology, the body itself, the emotions. And I think you're going to hear some fascinating things from him today about that and about what he does. But for our listeners, we're all about self-empowerment. And one of the things I would like to repeat from last week's program is what I like to call the conscious co-creative collaboration. It's just a way of saying, you who are listening to the show, whether it's live or you're listening down the road on a download, it is a collaboration of souls. We all create the means that bring to ourselves the process of what's called emancipation, which means liberating ourselves from the yoke of illusion that we carry, that we feel we're separate from one another. So one of the greatest gifts your listeners can give to themselves is that you have this power to co-create at any time whatever the process is that will help liberate you from illusions, from suffering, from false belief systems, and so forth.
It's interesting that you talk about that, because I read an article today from it's a news letter that I get, and it's called The Universe. And in this article this morning that I was reading, they talk about, have you ever stopped to take a moment and look at your life and understand it from another person's perspective?
Exactly.
And I think that if people could take that 5 minutes or take 10 minutes, even sitting at your desk at lunch while you're listening, put yourself in your shoes, but look at yourself from someone else's perspective and see if you're actually, following your talk, walking your talk, and how does that feel to you? Because
right.
when you look at yourself from another perspective, you are experiencing what I would call you're looking at yourself from what God's mind would look at you, or the universal mind. So and that's part of meditation. That's part of what I teach for meditation, and that's part of what I teach for balancing and coming into understanding who you are as a spiritual being here in this bio bodysuit. But I almost interrupted you a few minutes ago when you were talking, because you called our guest our host, and I'm thinking, maybe
in the next lifetime he'll be our host and we'll be the guest. Who can say?
Well, I know, but I was also thinking, is that a Freudian slip? Are we going to learn things today?
Thomas, absolutely. But I wanted to just mention on what you were saying, Deirdre. The indigenous people have a saying, don't criticize the other person until you've walked a mile in their moccasins.
Yes.
And you see life how they see life. And, a lot of times we're so concerned with what we want, we don't really have what Eckhart Tolle calls that space consciousness, where we elevate ourselves to a higher state, a better perspective, to really see things from a little bit higher level.
Well, that's just it, right? Because your sole purpose in this life, it isn't always that simple. And if you can take a moment and just be in the flow and to look at it, you would be surprised at what you would learn. But listeners, I really wanted, what's that?
I said precisely.
Yeah. I really want our listeners to understand that, these shows are recorded, and we're talking live right now. They're not edited. They're as raw as they can be, and depending on what guests come on, you'll be surprised at what some of the conversations are. But it's a lot of fun, and we have the shows recorded and put up on Spreaker Radio, it's Spreaker.com, I believe. And
it's like the word speaker, only with an R in it, Spreaker.
Yeah, which is really cool, because you can go into search us under the Bold Radio, and we are Light News, Realms of Self-Empowerment. And what you can do is you can go in there and you can listen to any of our shows that we have recorded in the last, since January, I believe, on Spreaker. And we're in the process of
over 50
getting all
shows,
of our...
D.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that just crazy? But we're also in the process of some of our older shows from when we were on a different server, trying to get those up, so you can listen to those as well. So, if you can't get into Spreaker, we post the links on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, on our LinkedIn page, on our Instagram page.
Exactly.
Right? Like, we're out there in the land of you can reach us on social media. So
and
it's a lot of fun. Our website is www.lightnews.org, and you can always reach me or Richard at info@lightnews.org, and we do our very best to get back to you within 2 business days, with answers to your questions. Speaking of, I would really like for our listeners to start sending us some really hard questions, because, drum roll, please, we are going to be having 4 radio shows a month starting in June or July. Yeah. And so we really want to have those questions, and we really want to be able to engage our listeners.
And we like the difficult questions best, right?
Oh, yeah. The really hard ones. The ones that I actually have to use my whole brain.
Yeah, I can feel our guests. Yeah, I can feel our guest smiling to himself right now when he's thinking about some of the really difficult questions.
Well, that is so cool, because, bottom line is we work so hard to take the mystery out of metaphysics, and, to really look at chakras and spirituality and bring that mind, body, spirit connection together. And what's the better way of doing it than on live radio? I mean,
Speaking of which, let's bring on our guest.
Okay. Well, our guest I have known for just over a year. You've known a little bit longer. Our guest is Thomas George, and he's a filmmaker from India who now currently lives in the U.S. He's residing in Southern California with his lovely wife. He's worked on many successful films and has done many different businesses. But right now, he is a founder of a nonprofit organization, and he and some other colleagues are working very hard to start up a center to help others spiritually and to work along their path. So with that being said, hi Thomas, how you doing?
Hi Dee, and hi Dr. J. Thank you for having me on this show, and we'll find out how we are doing along this little talk we're going to have.
Well, it's great to have you on the radio. It's very interesting also because as much as we plan, to have people on the radio and to have certain questions that are set up ahead of time, every show has a life of its own. And I noticed that in your bio that you've had many successful films in India, and you've been working behind the scenes and many other things, because to me, you're quite a man of inner consciousness, that's there's a lot of depth and wisdom to you, and people who know me know I don't patronize. But I'm wondering, what prompted you to get into filmmaking?
I was 5 years old when I watched Ben-Hur on a 70mm screen, and I think it was when the chariot race scene happened, and I just looked over to my father and I said, "What is this?" How did they go back in time where Jesus was? How are we looking at all of that stuff right now? And so that's when my father explained about movies and the fact that there was one visionary behind it called the director, and that there was a team of people with him who would envision this whole thing and recreate it and make it almost as if you went back in time or go forward in time or do anything you want to do.
What a great, fascinating way to look at it. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah.
So where did you study film? And how are your films different?
Well, I went to Prague Film School, And there are a number of reasons why that happened, because I'd been experimenting with film in India with some friends. I helped, and we worked together on a short film, and I was selected at Tribeca Film Festival, as well as at Syracuse and a few other places around the world. And that's how I first came to America. It was because of an invitation letter from the Tribeca Film Festival. There were a lot of scouts from various colleges at that time at these festivals, and they invited me over to their college, and they'd given me scholarship and teaching assistantship and all that stuff. And even with all of those things included, the monies required to go through 4 years of college was still exorbitant for me, if you convert Indian rupees into dollars.
Oh, I bet.
And that kind of it kind of put in my head that where I was in my life at that time, I was working with an advertising agency, and I was only 23, 24, and had risen to be a creative supervisor and was being trained to be a creative director. So I was like, I could continue in this field, or really at this time look to do what I really want to do, which was to do film. And to go to a film school would just give me the environment where I could focus on it for a length of time. And it was affordability primarily that took me to Europe and to a school called Prague Film School at that time. It was a 9-month course, but I thought, it would be a good good place to go. I'd enjoyed a lot of Eastern European filmmakers growing up. So that's how I ended up over there. So along the years, how my own films and what I'm writing right now has evolved is it's a good blend of American commercial mainstream films that I grew up watching, a mix of Bollywood, and a lot of the, I would say, depth and intellectual searching of Eastern European films.
So could you say that you always carry some kind of spiritual aspect to your films, like something that would be deep thought or understanding?
Without being boring, which is the main struggle of writing a screenplay and working with actors and trying to build something, is like a movie is no good if it's not entertainment. At the end of the day, everybody goes to a movie mainly to entertain themselves. So how do you entertain somebody while taking them to regions of their consciousness they haven't explored before? And that's my challenge. Pardon me?
I mean, you look at a movie nowadays, like some of the big blockbusters that have come out, and you wonder, a lot of people look at those movies but don't always realize what goes into actually making it appear seamless until you look at all the credits. And there's 1,000 people in the credits, right? And so the filmmaker, in my mind, has to look at all of these little nuances and complications and flow so that the finished product flows seamlessly, like a river. And so that reminds me, because I've known you for about 2 years now, and that reminds me a lot of the type of person that you are spiritually, Thomas, because I think that your makeup does look at the nuances and the mechanics behind the scenes that makes the scenes the scenes. And I think that the filmmaking is just a way that you do what I call externalizing, the way you see life and your spirituality.
Yeah, I always say that, to me, film is a tool. And if there was another tool that was more powerful than that, I would have picked it. So I'm not a person who's in a field to the point that I would say, hey, I'll live and die for film. I am somebody, it's like people who were using the film technology, the celluloid technology, transition to digital. And the filmmakers, who are really into storytelling didn't care much about it, but there were other people who were too much into the technology, stuck to it. But because the storytellers only care about telling their story, and if something comes that makes it easier for them to do it, they'll go with it. And that's how I am. So I'm not like a loyalist to cinema as a medium. And I think if Jesus was around, rather than talking on all of his sermons on the mountain, he would have chosen to make films today. because that's the confirmation.
Well,
I could
indeed.
just see that. I could just see that. Wow, what a nice perspective. That's so true, because when you look at even a lot of the stories that have been remade out of the Bible, and they take it to that perspective. They, the filming and whatnot. So that's very cool. That's I really enjoy thinking about that and imagining how that would be and how the story would be unfolded, because it would be so different than just sitting down and reading it.
Mm-hmm. Are you working on any films now, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing for some years now, and we've been working on those kind of things and trying to make it what we call market ready for circulation. And then you have to shop around quite a lot. So you got to shop around for finance, you got to shop around for all kinds of people that you want to sign on to the project. It's kind of a pyramid scheme, It's like Amway or any of these things where you get a product, and then the idea is to hook in people who are the heads of departments and all the top costing, the top billing cast and all those things. And so it's almost like building a pyramid. If you do those first steps correctly, then the rest of it falls together very easily. It's like saying, hey, I've signed on Clint Eastwood to play this character and Leonardo DiCaprio to play that character. As soon as that word goes out, all of the other actors want to be part of it,
Yeah, you get the support that you're looking for.
Yeah, and same thing with the cast, the crew part of it. So as soon as you say that, you've got this guy to be your DP and that guy to be your production designer, and if they're top billing guys, I mean, as soon as you say that, all the other people want to come work with them. So it's always like that. I mean, so I call it like a pyramid scheme, because you're really trying to hook in the best people at the top. And that takes a while, because there are only so many good people, and they're all committed for X amount of years. Really, they're booking 2, 3, 4 years ahead in time.
Right. And I heard years ago a figure that there were over 50,000 scripts created and submitted for consideration every year in Hollywood. It's probably, I don't know, much more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's much more. There's a lot of scripts being written, but I always say, I mean, there's anything you write in a certain format cannot be called a script. There is a script, and there is what is considered a producible script. So I would say there's probably about 5,000 to 10,000, anywhere in between that number of scripts that are producible to some degree, and maybe less than 1% of that is truly worth producing, frankly.
And they make it to the screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there's other films too. Like I remember watching one called Serenity, which was a kind of like a Western in space where they spoke English and cursed in Chinese and whatnot. But that was only shown on a few theaters and never got to be shown nationally. But it was a huge hit in the aftermarket. So sometimes things are really cool, but they don't make it to the wide enough audience, and they don't meet that threshold value of being a blockbuster or a big hit. I think you're, and listeners, please remember, we're only talking about one facet of Thomas's life that he's devoted to in films. As I know him as a friend, there's a lot of other things that he does that is, again, what I call the externalization of his ability to see these things behind the scenes, how it works together, and how to put it together so that someone could view it, if it was a film, and see it in its entirety as meaningful and relevant.
So I'm kind of curious on how filmmaking right now is playing a role in your life, because I know that your life is shifting and there's all kinds of things going on. You have a nonprofit organization, you're starting up a new center with some other people, and your spiritual path is constantly developing. So right now, what's going on in your life?
Well, like you mentioned, there's a number of things in inception, conception, being formed at different stages of it. And how I see it is that, when I wanted to make movies, it was by watching other movies and then trying to fit my views or what I thought were valuable concepts into that format. But then many times what happens, which is what we see in movies and in television and stuff, it almost looks like one is somehow a takeoff on another one, and rather than having an independent voice in there.
Right.
And so for a long time, I think in my early part of my career, I was just trying to emulate something rather than have something truly to contribute to it as my own perception. And that only comes from living life, experiencing life, knowing those deep, intense moments that your characters are going to go through at some level. Of course, you don't have to experience all of it personally, but to have been around and been with those moments in other people's lives and in society at large, and feeling and experiencing those things. And I think my life in America has forced me to look at aspects which I was very shielded from in India because of family, because of the circles that we lived in. I didn't have to expose myself to a lot of these aspects of human life. And also writing about foreign cultures, many a times, again, if you only write about that foreign culture from being a tourist, then you kind of create a caricature of individuals rather than real people living real lives.
You don't learn anything.
Yeah. So I think if I look back at scripts I started writing some 10 years ago, and if it involved characters of a certain age and characters of a certain culture, today looking back, they might have been a little too much of a cutout character, and now I am able to add more soul to those characters and those incidents and those situations that they put through. And also from the spiritual aspect of it, from the work we did in the nonprofit, working with underprivileged children. I hate to say underprivileged, but children who are born into situations which do not lend them the opportunity to truly express all of their living potential. And because all of us are geniuses at some level. It's only a question of if we can find the right tool to express it with, and that you can leave it to chance, you can leave it to a number of things, and one never knows. I mean, that's the mystery of life. One doesn't know why some people get access to the tools, and their life looks like, hey, they've been in the right place at the right time, and other people look like, oh, geez, man, you got the talent to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. So,
but that's really kind of a karma, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know which school to buy into. I am just today. I'm just somebody who's trying to understand ideas. I wouldn't say that I've truly understood or truly mastered any one idea or figured out that this idea is better than all the other ideas.
Just what a person who has a fountain of ideas would say. And you're like this effervescent, effulgent fountain that's always spouting forth knowledge and wisdom. And again, I don't patronize. I've known you for almost 2 years now, and you have so much expertise in so many areas, whether it's business planning, because I've seen some of your writings, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's working in a center and collaborating with other people. And also, I notice you have a skill to help draw other people of different skills together for one single purpose. So, yeah, you can have a lot of different ideas, but I just want our listeners to understand my perception of you is that you're the one that comes up with all these really great ideas too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
that was a good,
I'm laughing because I can feel your modesty and your humility. But it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge yourself for the greatness that you are, I guess is what Richard's trying to tell you.
That was a good silent moment there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, we have had many different people come on the show and many different people from many different walks of life to come and come on to our show. And people who really walk their beliefs, that really talk and practice that infamous mind, or that they experience what it is their sole purpose is. And from what I know of Thomas, and I'm talking to you as a third person here, but from what I know of you is that you do that. And so,
no question.
Thomas, if someone was to get a hold of you or wanted to get a hold of you, and, are your services available? Like, what services do you have that you can offer?
I can't wait to hear this, because he's a master of many trades, jack of none, and I can't wait to hear what he's going to offer to the public.
Cool. What and I'm not asking you to offer a tool, because that's down the road, but if people were wanting to reach you, to employ you, how would they do that? And
what skill sets would you be offering?
Well, there's a number of when you have too many things that you've learned over time and applied in different ways, because I started off in advertising and print, and then moved on to the internet and multimedia and all those kind of things, and then from that to film, and in between also with the telecommunications business, where I was helping bring all of the entertainment that was available in then standard formats onto the cell phones. And this was just the beginning and advent of the cell phone entertainment technology in India, and I was able to be a part of that revolution. So a number of skills come into being at that, from being around these things and being a part of those things. So firstly, I think a lot of what I've really been successful at doing is, like Richard mentioned at one point, was wrangling a lot of people and trying to get a focus for the team and getting a project moving in the right direction. And that was also my role in film, because when I worked with the studio, that's what I helped them do in a studio that was able to only produce a film in 5 to 7 years. And that was their track record for about 25 years before I joined them. And the year that I joined them, for the next 3.5 years that I was there with them, we were able to produce at least one film every year, if not 3. And that was just being able to understand the potential of every resource facet that was part of the company, whether it was human resource or technology or finance, and employing it in a manner that we were able to maximize the potential of each ingredient. And so I'm able to do that at a small scale. I'm able to do that at a large scale. And the most important aspect of it is to add creativity to the mix, so that what you're producing has a very original expression in the world, and you have to have that original expression for anything to truly make a mark in whatever aspect of society that it looks to fulfill. So I consult on a lot of projects in India, and I consult on levels of packaging projects. So they will send me, if it's at an early stage, they'll send me an idea and they'll say, hey, what direction should we go with this? And I'm able to tell them who to employ as a writer on it, what direction to take with it. And then once it's written, how to basically position it in the market in terms of its budgeting, in terms of who to cost for it, how to pitch it, how to market it.
I've seen some of this packaging in the work that you're putting forth for your new center, the Tara Center. So listeners, Thomas has quite a range of skills, from business acumen to planning and strategy to idea development to logistics to product flow. So, always it's up to the intuition. So if you're hearing this show live or somewhere down the road and you feel, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Thomas?
Well, my email address, which is Thomas, THOMAS, .t.george@gmail.com. So Thomas, THOMAS, .t for Tom, .george, GEORGE, @gmail.com. That's the best way. And my website is So It Is For You, SOITIS, the number 4, the letter U.com.
What a great website. So it is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds very sage, Yoda. Very lovely.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about your new adventure, because your new adventure, of course, is the Tara Center, and what kind of, what's happening?
It's located in San Diego, right, Thomas?
Yeah, it's located on 4113 3rd Avenue, San Diego, which is in the Hillcrest neighborhood.
I see.
And it's nothing new in itself, but it is kind of a new face to a very old soul, and this soul has existed in the form of these practitioners who've been practicing independently and also as part of the Tibetan Healing Center, which was right next door on 4115 3rd Avenue. For 17 years. So, it's just the same people have now just moved next door, and they have just kind of moved away from the whole umbrella of the Tibetan doctor's practice, who will be practicing independently next door. And that's the only difference here. But these people have been practicing for a number of years, and they have been serving people and healing and being a part of people's health goals for quite a while, and there's a nice congruence of a variety of healing techniques and practices here. And Richard is very aware of it, because Richard was a very integral part of what was offered at the Tibetan Healing Center for a long time. And I'm sure he will, grace us with his time and with his wisdom in the days forth as Tara Healing Center becomes more and more active in its role in San Diego.
Yeah. I know a good thing when I see it, and I know the energy. First time I ever sat in that room where the Tara Center is located, this was August 25th of 2014, I felt, I'm home. It felt so right to me spiritually to be in what's called the Dharma. Dharma means right action or right behavior. And so Thomas is part of a group that is continuing that in Tara. And for our listeners, what does the word Tara mean?
Well, Tara originally comes from the East. It's a word that is used to describe the guiding light. And a guiding light could be the star. A guiding light is the sun, which is a star. A guiding light is, spiritual forces. In Eastern culture, a lot of deities are called Tara. So in Tibetan culture, for example, there's the white Tara, green Tara. But these are manifestations or embodiments of aspects of the spirit that are known to have healing potential, guiding potential, potential to lead you to greater realms of consciousness.
So the name was chosen very carefully, because it seems very obvious to me that you and your co-collaborators would choose a name that represents a guide, an inner light, a star, and it's what also the Eastern people call non-personal. And you're not trying to get anybody to follow any beliefs. In my words, your work is to help people empower themselves through different healing modalities, whether it's past life integration or acupuncture or guided imagery meditation and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like we take, anything that you purchase, whether it's a phone or a car or a TV or whatever, it always requires an upgrade or tuning, or it has to be well maintained for it to operate correctly. And the greatest tool we have come to this planet with is our body and our mind, and we have to tune it and be completely in charge of how well maintained and well oiled these faculties are. And so all of the services at the Tara Healing Center are here so that you can be well tuned to your best potential, so that you can operate and live a life that is fulfilling, that is completely to your satisfaction. Because a lot of times, say you've got a chronic back pain or whatever, it's like it stops you from being who you are, because there are 10 things you want to do that you can't do because, hey, you're indisposed because of your backache, or
well, I have to ask though, is some of that we dis-ease, we bring that upon ourselves?
Well, I think every disease is our body talking to us, telling us to pay attention to something that we're not doing correctly. That
I think so.
A lot of disease could be a byproduct of lifestyle choices, of things that we eat or drink, the things that we don't eat or drink, the things that we do in terms of, bad posture, sitting on the computer, or choosing a lifestyle where you have to commute for 2 hours in traffic, and all you do during those 2 hours is have high blood pressure, stress, and basically say things that you wouldn't say outside of that car.
Well, let's go back to the Tara Center for a second, because I want to increase the focus a little bit. Every practitioner there, I've met. And every practitioner there works in a state of consciousness that's always uplifting and empowering. So in other words, what differentiates this center is the spiritual connotation. In other words, not just a chiropractor or a medical doctor, but one who seeks the spiritual path. So I just wanted our listeners to know that these practitioners are working now at this center. And I know it was very important to you, Thomas, because you are launching this center right now. It's happening. And
it's just happening right now.
And I'm going to make an assumption that several of these practitioners can work long distance. Our listeners don't have to live in San Diego to be able to access some of the services. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, we've got Navir Singh Khalsa, who is an Italian, but he took on the practice of Sikhism, and he's been a teacher of Kundalini Yoga. He practices past life integration, and a lot of his practices are intuitive, and he's able to do it remotely. He teaches, even whether it's a Kundalini Yoga session that he does, or whether it is past life integration, he's able to do it remotely. Paula, who does guided imagery, and whose guided imagery has been, has passed through the rigor of science at University of San Diego, California, San Diego, and had very good results with the preliminary study, and now it's been poised for a larger study with a 100-patient trial. And she has brought a lot of the great tools that she used in that program onto what she does at the Tara Healing Center, and is able to customize it for clients with all kinds of physical or mental imbalances that they're trying to deal with, and she's able to do that over Skype as well. Sandra does Reiki, and there are two kinds of Reiki. There's Reiki 1, which is a hands-on. The patient is in the
proximity.
Reach of the proximity, and the practitioner lays their hand and in certain important, I would call it like energy centers of the body.
Yes,
bring
I'm very
back
familiar
balance
with that.
into the body. And there's Reiki 2, which is being able to do the same thing, but doing it remotely. And so you're able to do that and get the advantage of it for yourself or for a loved one. And so that is available. Acupuncture, which is practiced by Laurel Holloway, that's the only thing that cannot be done remotely, because the needle has to get to you. So,
well, I have to tell you that I have been the patient of an acupuncturist who has worked on me remotely with acupuncture, and so I think more and more that's going to come to the fore. And right now, I want to kind of move you into, if people are interested in the Tara Center, is there a specific website or contact information for that?
Yeah, it's the tarahealingcenter.org. TaraHealingCenter.org. And if you go there,
okay.
yeah, tarahealingcenter.org. And if you go there now, before the end of June, anytime in this time, you will have access to buy a one-time only offer that is being put out there, so that you get to come in, you get to experience all of the different services that are offered at the center at a very, very, very nominal rate. It's $870 of services that are being given out for just $250. There's only 111 packages being offered right now. So be there, get that, come in, see these practitioners, get a taste of it, and I'm telling you, you're gonna figure out that this is what you've missed all this while. This kind of tuning will make sure that your body is well oiled, that your mind is functioning at its most optimum level, and you'll be living more of your life in a better way than you've ever experienced before.
I wouldn't mind having my mind well oiled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I didn't say half cut, D. I said well oiled.
I know. I'm thinking well oiled. No, that's no. I wasn't thinking half cut. Maybe fully cut, but not. Yeah. Anyhow, enough of that. I need to ask you, Thomas, if there is one thing that you could say or give to our listeners right now, a tool that you could offer them, what would that tool be to help them to, enjoy their life more to its fullest?
Well, it's the one offer called life, where we take on this body, take on this personality, take on this consciousness, and we walk into this planet, into this world of events and activities. And there's no return policy on this. So once you're in this, you're in it, and there is you, and that's who you are. You can't replace it. You can't become somebody else. There's no exchange offers here. So you gotta, the sooner we get on to learning how to be the best us, the best you that you are, the more life you're going to live. And there's no point in beating yourself about anything. There's no point in saying, oh, I wish I was this, or I wish I was that. This is who you are. Just be proud of who you are, and just go out there and dance the best dance you can dance,
Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful thing to say. That is so, thank you. Thank you for that.
Certainly puts everything in perspective.
Doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute joy having you on our show today, Thomas.
Likewise, Steve.
It really has. I've been looking forward to this for over a month now. So this is great. We will be sure to, one more time, how can people reach you or reach the new center?
Well, to learn more about me, they can go to soitisforyou.com, which is SOITIS, the number 4, the letter U.com. And for the center, they go to tarahealingcenter.org, TaraHealingCenter.org.
Great.
That's it.
You listeners enjoy how specific and well laid out that is for you to be able to jot that down. Are you listening, listeners? Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. It's amazing on the amount of people and listeners, and everything that happens on this show is just so meant to happen the way it does. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's just synchronicity, and it's really nice, And I don't know, listeners, if you've noticed, but I have found that we kind of have a theme happening on our shows in the last year, and I didn't realize it until earlier yesterday when I was just reviewing things. But it seems like each one of our shows kind of leads into the next one. And it just, to me, that is amazing. And it's just, when we've had guests that couldn't make it on, and Richard and I have had to do a show by ourselves, it's really good, because then when we finally do get that guest to come on our show, that it's whole and complete. It's just, I love it.
And there's no lack of things to talk about. And, it's like I said at the beginning of the show, the co-creative conscious collaboration is the listeners actually are helping to create the show, because what Deirdre and I are doing is actually, when we meditate or when we think about what shows to put on, we think, well, who could we invite in this month that the people who listen to the show would really want to listen to, either live or somewhere down the road, downloadable. And it just never fails. The right person comes at the right time. Like today, Thomas, so eloquent, so erudite, and very heart-centered. Just what people need to hear. A new center, the Tara Center, opening up for people in San Diego, plus remote. It's all so eloquent, Dee, and that is the beauty of this work. It sounds cliche, but when you get into that flow, there's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it.
It's amazing. And I'm just, looking at who our next guest will be on the 6th of July, or I'm sorry, on the 6th of, on the June 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I tell you, sometimes I wish we could edit our show when my mouth goes into trouble mode, but we have
on a little tight, are they?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Carol Fitzgerald, and Carol is a reverend from Universal Church of the Master, but she has helped and guided people through many and various stages and challenges throughout life. So, again, it's going to be one of those shows that just links up to this show, and it's I think it's just fabulous. So you'll have to tune in 2 weeks, listeners, and catch the show with Carol Fitzgerald. And of course, our big announcement, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff on the go as usual. So drum roll.
There we go. We are going to 4 shows a month starting in July. So Same time, same station, same format, just 2 of those shows a month are going to be Richard and I bantering back and forth all on our own with regards to spirituality, metaphysics, whether or not you've changed your socks, all that really important stuff.
Plus a cornucopia of guests whom we feel really are walking their talk in spirituality, because in this world of cliches and fad and passing fancies, it's really important to look at what is the grounded spirituality. So every once in a while, we're going to throw a little science at you that shows that the scientific community is verifying what the yogis, swamis, gurus have been saying for centuries. And then we're going to bring on other people who are entirely into the esoteric, and most people will be somewhere in between. But I promise you, Light News is growing and offering more and more to the public who are hungry for this form of grounded spirituality and self-empowerment.
Yes, I totally agree. So I want to talk about some of the things that are coming up in your life and your schedule.
Okay.
You are flying to Calgary on June 10th, and you're going to be here for 4 days, 4 whole days. Woohoo! So you're going to be teaching Calgary group. What group are you teaching?
Group 15, Healers Training.
Group 15, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're taking levels 14 and 15, and that'll be this weekend. And
the public is invited, right?
Yes. Anytime between 2 and 4 p.m., come and get some free energy balancing and some free spiritual healing. And, I love it because really come out and get some quantitative spiritual healing.
Right.
That's what the course is all about. It's all about that. What were you going to say?
And you can find the address on our website, lightnews.org. Lightnews, lightnews.org. It has an amazing calendar of events and all kinds of information, including a blog post for our seekers.
Yes. And then you'll do a intuitive flower reading event at Artemis Center on the 14th. And Holly James of the Artemis Center is looking after all the registration details and everything. So if you Google Artemis Center, because I forgot to look up the address, you'll be able to...
Also in Calgary.
It's also in Calgary.
Yeah.
So then I am going to be teaching in Camrose on the 18th and 19th of June for their levels 10 and 11, the Camrose group. But the Friday night before that, so June 17th, any of our listeners out there or peeps that are in the Edmonton, Camrose, Red Deer area that would like to take the course, we have a makeup class that Friday night. Mm-hmm. So I would just need to know if you're interested, and I can work with you on getting you caught up to join the new group, which I will be teaching in Camrose. So I'm so excited about that. You have...
that weekend I will be in San Jose, the 17th. 21st, and I'll be available for flower readings on Sunday the 19th, and I'll be available for private sessions in person. And of course, both Deirdre and I do private sessions in person, over the phone, and by Skype, in covering the entire surface of this planet.
Yes, we certainly do. We certainly do. So we, of course, have our regular second and fourth Monday of the month free energy balancing and spiritual healing at Family Matters in Northeast Calgary. You can find us on Meetup. We have 3 different meetups under the Northern Light News, which is we have San Diego, San Jose, and California and Calgary. So you're welcome to come and check us out on Meetup or on Instagram.
Right.
We are also on Facebook.
And we will be starting twice monthly free healings for the public in San Diego as well.
Woo-hoo!
So stay tuned for that.
That's amazing. That'll be a lot of fun. So you're also going to be doing a workshop in San Diego on, what day is that? The 13th of July?
I think it's July 13th, Wednesday. It's a Q&A evening with me, Dr. J, at the International Professional School of Bodywork, IPSB in San Diego. But it's open to the public, and of course you can go on the website, on Facebook, and find all the details, including a flyer.
That's right. And we've been offering two introductory classes a year, one in Calgary, one in San Diego. And so if you've missed any of the introductory classes, contact me at info@lightnews.org or 877-242-5721. And please remember to leave a callback number. Speak it nice and slow. I don't know how many times somebody will say, I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. Thank you, and hang up. And it's like,
don't type in and say, hey, it's me.
No.
And I think we got one spot left for our Journey of the Sacred Heart meditation retreat in Sedona, September 22 through 27th. Is that right?
We do. And another drum roll there. Listeners, if you're interested, that spot will go at the early bird pricing. So that's a $375 discount. It'll be $1,550 US, which includes your accommodations, Kundalini yoga, guided meditations, ceremonies, trips to Snebley Hill, Airport Mesa, White Canyon, a Pink Jeep tour, Cathedral Rock, breakfast, lunch, and a farewell dinner.
Yep.
All you need to do is get your little buttons there. I mean, it's going to be an amazing trip, and it's going to be lots of fun.
And more coming. We have a trip to Costa Rica, Kundalini Yoga, and me in April of 2017. So as you can see, we have a lot going on Light News Radio, and I'm surprised things aren't burning up because Deirdre has to cover so much information, and she goes a mile a minute, and she's able to do it. She's able to do it. My hat's off to being able to, upcoming guests and shows going 4 times a month. So, we just appreciate you listeners so much. This is a labor of love. Deirdre and I do this because we feel we have a way of relating to the public, a kind of an urgency to awaken ourselves spiritually in the golden era of inner transformation, and that we have this amazing resource of these talented people like Thomas George and the other guests that we've had that can come on and show you some of their brilliant light and show you what happens to a person who is really following their path. They're in their bliss. They wouldn't rather do anything else but be in that bliss. So, dear listeners, may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever-constant, ever-vigilant guide of your every intention, your every thought, and your every action. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done. Stay attuned, everyone.
Thank you for joining Light News Radio, where you are self-empowered for your whole being. Be sure to join us again in 2 weeks and connect with us at www.lightnews.org.